We are now in the final week of negotiations on climate action in Glasgow. What have been days full of wordy statements, emotional speeches, as well as mega promises. And in what will be analysed is whether countries will stand up to what they said. Will they walk the talk? Or will it be like the previous summits where goals have been set, but they have rarely been met? The UN's Climate Summit had an eventful start. Leaders from around the world pledged to carbon neutrality in the next few decades. The European Union and the United States announced the Global Methane Pledge. One of the central aims of this agreement is to cut down methane emissions by up to 30% from the 2020 levels by the year 2030. It all sounds good on paper. However, countries remain starkly divided on key issues discussed at the UN meeting, including how rapidly the world curbs carbon emissions and how to ramp up support for countries already battered by storms, floods and drought intensified by global heating. Developing countries have blamed the West for bargaining the lives of millions for their own agendas. Developing countries have historically contributed a very small proportion of the damaging emissions driving climate change, while currently the wealthiest 1% of the global population accounts for more than double the combined emissions of the poorest 50%. Poorer countries have called for $100 billion of financial help, arguing they are already suffering and will be the worst affected by climate change.
The vast majority, up to 60% of disaster-related deaths, continue to occur in vulnerable countries. That number will rise, potentially exponentially, if the gap between adaptation needs and adaptation financing persists. The rationale for why at least half of climate finance must go towards adaptation is quite clear, as is the importance of that funding being extremely affordable. And of course, developed nations should deliver the finance they pledged to deliver.
The UK has promised around $400 million to help those countries, but similar promises were made in 2009 as well. The first $100 billion were supposed to be given to the poor countries by 2020. A year has passed since then, and the funds are nowhere to be seen.
Thank you.
On the climate finance, I think we need some serious, clear commitments on climate finance. We need, first of all, to reach as soon as possible the $100 billion that was promised, and then we need to start an earnest discussion about what we're going to do after 2025, because the needs for adaptation finance will only increase. And the sooner we come to terms with that reality, the better it is, and we can then find solutions to make that happen.
The president of the COP26 summit says that the negotiations have achieved what they could, and that now it all depends on sufficient political will and subsequent action needed to bring about real change.
My priority now is pace. There needs to be a sense of urgency in all our negotiations. The science is clear, we have no time to lose, and I will ensure that negotiations proceed in a timely manner.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.